Hey, what's up, Giannis? Giannis View. What's going on, folks? Hey, Libby. Terry Lynn, nice to see ya. All right, they're all crashing in. All right, come on in. All right, so I got my green tea, ready to rock. So we're gonna go through. Hormones and autoimmunity. My name is Dr. Ian. I will be your hostess with the mostest, and I'm going to lead you guys through hopefully a discussion about hormones, about understanding hormones, what they do, what are the big ticket hormones as it relates to specifically autoimmunity. No, we're not going to be talking about chronic Lyme, although hormones do influence your immune system and therefore your potentiation towards Lyme, right? So we're going to talk about those thyroid hormones, right? So let's just kind of write down in general a quick list about the stuff that I want to hit. We want to hit the high notes, and it's taken me again about, I don't know, 13, maybe 14, 15 years to start to really figure out these connections between how hormones influence hormones, how the immune system influences hormones, how leaky gut is influenced by hormones, how hormones influence your brain, how hormones influence our neurotransmitters. There's too many things for us to go into. Let's just put it like that. But I want to hit some of the high notes so you guys can start to connect that one of the most fundamental aspects of developing autoimmunity or leading your merry way into autoimmunity is going to be via hormones. So lupus, right? We have on average 9 out of 10 people that develop lupus are female. African American women are predominantly higher, as a matter of fact, as far as the lupus goes. So these patterns that different conditions have. Hashimoto's, 7 out of 8 people who develop Hashimoto's are female. So we're going to talk about those. Really, one of the only few conditions that actually is male dominant is rheumatoid arthritis. And so it's looking at what are the differences. That helps us understand where you guys need to focus your attention, your time, what you invest in, what supplements you take, who you go and talk to about your problems, because if they do understand hormones, that's going to be one of the key links into remission. Okay? Cheryl, right, is like, I stopped taking my thyroid hormones because guess what? About 30% of people actually feel worse when they take their thyroid hormones. That's my statistics as far as my clients. On average, it's about 30 to 40% of people actually feel worse. But we know from peer-reviewed research that about 20 to 30% of people who have been surveyed with antibodies, they're actually making, so if they have Hashimoto's, right, and they have a history of a high TSH, right, if they had a positive TPO or a positive anti-thyroglobulin, right, there's a 20 to 30% chance that they have antibodies against, again, we call it TSH receptor, also T4 or T3. So check it out. Those people do not do well when they take thyroid hormones. They literally feel worse. And we wonder why. Because if you go to your doctor and you talk to them, they're going to say, well, just keep taking your thyroid medication. You're like, but I feel worse. It's like, well, no. Then people start to think, well, I need to take Armour, or I need to take Cytomel, or I need to take Levoxyl, or I need to take, whatever it is. And yet they still feel worse. So there's mechanisms behind this, and that's what we want to kind of teach you guys today. By the way, one of the other big triggers here, and which you may or may not realize, is that people who have been on birth control pills, oh my God, that is like the worst marker ever. Oh my gosh. That is going in the trash. women, right, who've taken birth control pills, okay, after 10 years, okay, they have an increase of 400% of becoming hypothyroid. 400% increase in becoming hypothyroid after 10 years of use of birth control pills. Your doctors are not telling you this. It's not in their vested interest because you're not going to be compliant on the medications if you realize that. But literally, what you're doing is you're binding up the receptor sites for T4 and T3. And so you don't actually have available thyroid receptor sites when the longer you take birth control pills, which is another mechanism that leads people towards the #1 hormone diagnosed condition in the United States, and that is hypothyroidism. It just so happens that of those people with a high TSH, right, 90% are autoimmune. So this is what's frustrating because many times doctors don't screen those antibodies. They won't tell you if you have autoimmunity because all they want to do is regulate the TSH. But your thyroid hormones are not impacting at root cause. They may actually help a little bit with your leaky gut if you're truly hypothyroid, which means low T4, elevated TSH. But they are not actually fixing the other mechanisms. And again, we're going to talk about hormones tonight in particular. Okay? So that's my lead in. Like I said, we need to create a list of, I think, the most important hormones we need to talk about. Okay? Miles, yes, psoriasis. Well, hormones influence psoriasis, right? ITP, related to hormones, right? Katina, we'll talk about it, man. And Christy, yes, it's fixable. So the problem is that you have to have a plan in place to fix the issue. The problem with saying fix or cure is you're saying there's an end point, there's a place where everything is perfect because we've reached our destination. Your health is not a destination. Your health is a journey. And sometimes it's like hanging on to a bull because you're just trying to hang on for 8 seconds, man, because you keep getting bucked off. That's how bad the symptoms are, right? So when we start to look at our lifestyle and the journey of our health, rather than, oh, if I could just get my TSH to this number, if I could just get my testosterone to this number, then I'll be okay. It's not how it works. It's not how your immune system works. It's about the inputs, all these varying inputs into the system. And when you have a lot more positive inputs than negative inputs, your immune system may start to behave. Okay? So hormones is a piece of this. It's not everything. We can't just fix your hormones and ignore the fact that one of the strongest influencers on hormones is inflammation, right? So let me throw down the list of what I think are probably the biggest players when it comes to hormones, all right? So we've got 1, insulin, okay? 2, estrogen, right? 3, cortisol. I'm going to say it right now, okay? 1, 2, 3. There's a reason why I'm listing these in this order. So hormones and, again, and autoimmunity. Again, maybe you guys have had a positive ANA, right? Maybe you've had a high TSH test. Maybe you have waxing and waning, waxing and waning. Maybe we have a family history. Maybe we have, right, joint pain, brain fog, chronic fatigue. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Joint pain, brain fog, fatigue. 3 most common symptoms as it relates to autoimmunity. Right? Oh my God, yes. Or, man, my white blood cells are chronically low. Why are my white blood cells chronically low? That is the short list. There's a lot more here. You're starting to react to foods, right? So, oh my gosh. I'm noticing I'm reacting to foods more. Oh, and then now it's chemicals. Damn it, I'm sensitive to everything. You're just sensitive. No, you're not sensitive. Your immune system is freaking out. It is freaking out because it's losing regulation. We have a history of headaches, menstrual irregularities, right? How about rashes? How about insomnia? Did you guys know that your immune system is peaking? It's peaking in its activity at nighttime when you're sleeping. Now, for some people, they don't sleep very well, but literally, in fact, especially for people with rheumatologic conditions, they'll find themselves not sleeping well because a lot of times their pain is peaking at nighttime. They're uncomfortable. You're rolling around all the time. CBU-A, yes, POTS. 90% of POTS will have acetylcholine receptor antibodies. As far as I'm concerned, 9 out of 10 cases are autoimmune when it comes to POTS. Okay? Right? Is this starting to like click a little bit? So again, there are big ticket hormones that we have to understand. Insulin, estrogen, cortisol. Really, we could also say DHEA. Okay? Big time. 4, thyroid. Why? Because again, partly what actually develops. What's crazy about the thyroid is that thyroid hormones are necessary for you to heal leaky gut. You have to have thyroid hormones to heal leaky gut. Yes, when you have a lack of thyroid hormones, right, you're hypothyroid, wait a second, now you actually are not also producing T4 and then the active T3, which requires peripheral conversion in your liver and your gut. And if you don't have those thyroid hormones, you deal with a multi-system issue. So thyroid is tricky, but again, it goes back to finding the root causes behind that. Every single one of these hormones, insulin, estrogen, cortisol, they all influence your thyroid. But it's not the thyroid that's the problem. It is your immune system that's the problem. Stop treating the wrong thing. Okay? So 5. Okay, we got progesterone. Okay? 6. Testosterone. Nicole, so again, when you're taking levothyroxine and you're feeling terrible, more than likely, again, that's autoimmune. You guys have to understand there's 4 aspects of autoimmunity that every person deals with, okay? Start with the basics. We don't have to do some crazy multi-level, multi-marketing supplement that's guaranteed to fail, okay? You look at your genetics. What are your SNPs? What are the differences in your genes that people with autoimmunity don't deal with, right? So the people that don't have autoimmunity, they don't have those genetics. Secondly is an environment, okay? Third is gonna be your triggers, and 4th is leaky gut. Those 4 aspects. Luis, why is it that you get severe rashes right after ovulation? Interesting. Huh. Almost like a estrogen surge, right? When you ovulate, you'll get an estrogen surge. So what happens? Estrogen surges modulate your immune system. And actually, when you increase and you surge estrogen, you are literally actually potentially taking that estrogen and you're fueling, very commonly, something called dysbiosis. So one of the manifestations of dysbiosis okay, which is abnormal ratios of good and bad bacteria. Remember, estrogen is a growth molecule. So dysbiosis means you have abnormal ratios of good and bad bacteria. But one of those manifestations, rashes, urticaria. So very commonly, again, hormones influence systems, and that facilitates the vicious circle that you're in. So hormones work for us by design, but when we lose control of the regulation of hormones, especially when we have negative influences on hormones, when we either have excess hormones, this could, look, high or low. It is problematic if you have too much testosterone. It is also problematic if you have too low of testosterone. Hormones are Goldilocks in their paradigm, right? Not too much, not too little. So the other thing I want to mention to you guys, just a little, you may or may not realize that this is a hormone, but 7 is vitamin D. Vitamin D is a hormone, prohormone D. It's just mislabeled. So vitamin D is, yes, tied into your immune system, okay? I know you want me to go slow, but there's too much material to cover. So what I'm going to tell you guys is that if you need to hear this lecture again, you need to email info@drautoimmune.com. We've easily got an hour more that we're going to do, okay? Because I just listed 7 major hormones in the body, and I'm going to talk about every single one of them. And if I don't blow your guys' minds in the next hour, I'm not doing my job very well. Because again, what your doctor's not really doing is, one, they're not measuring your hormones accurately. They're probably not measuring them in your luteal phase, meaning the second half of your phase. So they're not even asking you, well, where are you at in your menstrual cycle so we can check your hormones accurately? Big mistake number 2, right? They're only using blood. They're only checking you. They don't even know when they're checking you during your luteal cycle. They don't know what normal reference ranges are. So again, the example is thyroid, right? So the American Endocrine Society, okay, they're the one who comes up with what is hypothyroidism, right? They're the one who sets the precedent. They studied healthy populations, and they said TSH, okay, 1 to 2.5. Now, someone grab their reference range and tell me what that reference range of your TSH is listed at on your labs. If you're in menopause, hang with us, okay? We're going to talk about menopause. I have to talk about menopause because that's the most common time that women consult with me one-on-one is menopausal women. Because goodness gracious, it's like it's a hot, burning mess, right? So 0.5 to 4.5. Jay, that's pretty close. The range that I have, right, is 0.4, okay, to 4.6. So you've got one reference range for optimal, and then you've got another reference range, right, which they say is the lab reference range. Remember, people with thyroid dysfunction are being put in the bell curve. So that's how they distribute their ranges as far as blood work goes. So just because you're in no man's land, right? If you're in a 0.6 and you're having all the symptoms of hyperthyroid, there's a chance you're moving in the wrong direction. If you're a 4.2, yes, there's still help for you guys. It's not that you have to become a hot flaming mess before you start taking massive action. Okay? Croatian girl, PCOS. Okay, we're going to talk about it, but polycystic ovarian syndrome, the 2 most common versions of polycystic ovarian syndrome is going to be excess cortisol and excess insulin causing insulin resistance. So we'll talk about PCOS. Okay? So that's the list of what we need to talk about. But again, this is the craziness, is that the doctors don't really get training on hormones. And again, this is not, guys, a lecture to tell you, go get bioidentical hormones. I'm just telling you right now, I'm not a bioidentical doctor. Do I think it's bad? No. Do some people benefit from it? Absolutely. Do I find people that are on fire that go get hormones create more problems? Absolutely. I see it all the time. And so again, if we've got certain factors going on, especially blood sugar handling problems, and you decide to correct your symptoms, hair loss, right? Motivation, drive, lack of muscle, starting to lose your balance. You've got all these low testosterone symptoms, but you have a blood sugar handling issue. If you guys are fatiguing after meals, if you guys are getting sugar cravings after meals, that is a primary sign of insulin resistance. And if you think that you're going to fix that by taking more hormones, you are potentially throwing fuel on the fire. Okay? So, let's go down the list. Again, for those of you coming in late, number one was insulin. Okay? So, okay, again. So, who here has had their insulin tested? Maggie, we're going to talk about insulin resistance, okay? Good. We've had some people that actually have had insulin. Holy cow, 102. But you're going to see, okay, who here has never had their insulin tested? Yes, we test everyone's insulin, of course. Never, right? So there's going to be quite a few people that have never had their insulin test. Remember, insulin is not A1C. Okay? A1C is your average fasting blood sugar over about 2 months. So what happens is fasting, right? Non-fasting, less than a 5.0, again, less than a 25.0. There's our optimal numbers as far as for your insulin. This is the problem. You're never going to know that you have an issue with insulin unless you actually test it. Okay? Hemoglobin A1C is a crust that forms around the red blood cell over a 2-month average. You can have a perfectly normal A1C and have a raging issue with insulin because your body has to control your blood sugar. Remember, your blood sugar, okay, should range roughly about 85, okay, up to about 110, maybe 115 at the most. And when you eat food, your blood sugar will go up, but insulin will nicely control that blood sugar back down. It'll slowly come down, okay? You're going to trigger hunger centers. You're going to eat. Blood sugar will come back up. And you'll see a nice rise and fall of your blood sugar. And then this is what happens for most people. They eat, again, non-complex, refined carbohydrates, and they eat reactive foods. So if you're eating not just carbohydrates, but if we're eating foods that you're reactive to, especially because if you have leaky gut and you're inflaming, right? If you get inflammation in your gut from a food, guess what's going to happen? You're going to spike your blood sugar. Your body's going to panic, and you're going to spike your insulin. Now you're going to drive that down. For some people, if you guys had a continuous glucose monitor, you would be shocked at what you saw. Because what you'll see is you'll see a rapid spike and then boom, it'll drop down. And there's actually automatic alarms on these continuous glucose monitors. And you will be shocked, especially when you see actually that a lot of people drop their blood sugar after they consume grains. Yes, rice, corn, spelt, wheat. God's beauty. I love that you're saving money and remember, you can get one from us. It starts out at $2.99, and then you can get and then every 14 days you buy a new sensor. So you get 2 sensors for $2.99, and then every 14 days you renew. So it's $75 per sensor. Okay. So then guess what happens when your blood sugar is low? Now you need cortisol. Now you need adrenaline to get your blood sugar back up. But you think that it's okay? You think your body's going to be fine with you surging cortisol and adrenaline? So the number one symptom, folks, of that blood sugar getting dropped down, meaning you over exceed what your body actually needs because your body is panicking if you push your blood sugar too high. The number one symptom once you drop your blood sugar down is it's anxiety. Who here deals with chronic anxiety? You're like, my life is pretty good. I feel like things are kind of like okay. And I have debilitating anxiety. One of the triggers, I'm telling you guys, look, every time I do a lecture, my number one goal here is to get you guys to understand that it's not the symptoms that we need to focus on. It's the systems that are driving that. When you guys start to understand that the symptoms you're having is a result of dysfunctional systems, when you start to understand that and you start to expand your awareness of what's really going on, then you can start to understand, oh, wow, my body's responding and it's causing anxiety. Anxiety is a response. Marley, yes, autoimmune can be driven by fungal issues, by yeast overgrowth. That's what actually triggered my issue. So secondly, right, and insomnia. So very commonly, what's going to happen here is if your blood sugar drops in the middle of the night at the same time every night, 2 a.m. Oh no, it's 3 a.m. Oh, yeah, I can't make it to 5 a.m. I wake up at 4:30 every morning and I'm hungry. Or there's no way I can eat because I'm anxious. I'm waking up. It's almost like sometimes I'm sweating. That's another huge red flag that there's a blood sugar problem during the day. So you will impair your deep sleep if you have surges of adrenaline. How the heck can you guys get deep quality sleep if your blood sugar is going like this and you need hormones to regulate that? It won't work. So this is, again, why I'm going to advocate. This is the Freestyle Libre 3. We sell CGMs. We're one of the first companies to actually be available to sell to the general public. It goes through Thea is the company, and they're using the Libre 3. Most insurances, if you can get it approved by insurances, because most of my clients can't get the CGMs approved through insurance. You have to have very specific, again, criteria, which is ridiculous, because if we could just get in front of things like insulin resistance, right? Fatiguing after meals, craving sugar after meals, okay? Shaky, irritable, lightheaded in between meals, too long between meals. If we can get in front of those symptoms by tracking and knowing what's going on, you are doing your immune system a tremendous favor. Okay? So, because here's the deal. What's going to happen, right, is when we get an insulin surge, that surge of insulin creates fat cells. Ladies love the fat cells. So if we have, if we have now insulin surging and we have weight loss resistance, what do? Oh, we go on Wegovy. We go on Ozempic. We go on Mounjaro. GLP agonists, right? So GLP agonists, glucagon-related agonists, are going to squash your appetite. You'll stop consuming calories. And then guess what happens? Long term, the research is now showing cachexia. Have you guys heard that term, cachexia? Right? C-A-C-H-E-X-I-A. Right? Auntie Joe, how's your appetite? You said you're on Ozempic. It's low. Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for answering that. Okay? So here's the deal. If you have insulin resistance and you now have an excess in your fat cells, which is coming from insulin, okay? GLP agonists are not treating the insulin issue. What's going to happen, it's going to suppress your appetite, okay? So you won't eat. So yes, your insulin may come down. It's not fixing the insulin resistance because that's a complex mechanism. But over a long term, you're going to develop cachexia. That means you are decreasing muscle mass. Uh-oh. What do we think? Decreasing muscle mass, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Yes, of course there's hope for women without gallbladders. Yeah, it's insane that you guys don't get counseling on the fact that you have to absorb fat. Fats are part of insulin resistance, guys, by the way. There's something called PPAR gamma, PPAR alpha, PPAR delta. Your fat is part of what actually stimulates something called peroxisome proliferative receptors, PPARs. Those PPARs is what helps create sensitivity at the receptor level for insulin. If you don't have healthy fats in your diet, you're not stimulating PPARs. If you're not stimulating PPARs, you're not creating sensitivity to insulin. So guess what? Those people that have had their gallbladder taken out will have a higher incidence of insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. Oh, wait a second. My doctor never told me that when they yanked my gallbladder out, that all of a sudden I do nothing? Oh yeah, they did tell you that because they said nothing. But no, if you don't break your fat down, you're probably going to get IBS, or you already had IBS because your gallbladder wasn't working, because your enzymes in your gallbladder is what allows you to break your fat down. If you don't break your fat down, or any macronutrient, carbohydrate, proteins, or fats, and you let that get further down your gut, you're going to have dysbiosis. You're going to have an abnormal overgrowth of bacteria. So again, it's not just about eating carbs and, oh, I ate too many carbs, so I got bad bacteria, and then I got autoimmunity. No. There's a whole manifestation of what's going on with the different systems promoting and maintaining normal digestion. But I digress. By the way, if you guys are getting gas and bloating after meals, dysbiosis right there. Okay? Not technically a hormonal mechanism, but I'm gonna come back to that in a second, because there's a very common hormonal mechanism that drives that gas and bloating issue. And when you figure that out, again, it's another huge, huge life-changing transformation. And I want you guys to have that transformation. I want you guys to thrive. God is calling you to thrive. Okay? and I can get all crazy preacher up in front of you guys, but like, that's not me. I'm just going to talk to you guys. I'm going to show you guys, right? And then it's up to you if you guys want to change. We can help you with that, or you guys can try to do it on your own. There's nothing wrong with doing it on your own. It just takes longer. It's just more, you know, it's a little more sloppy versus somebody like me who's been doing it for 15 years with clients, one-on-one, every day, patient after patient. And I love it. So back to here, right? Be very careful with these drugs that are causing weight loss. Because at the very least, you need to maintain and understand through a bioimpedance analysis, a BIA, how much muscle mass you're losing. But again, those GLP agonists are not necessarily alleviating insulin resistance. And if you lose muscle mass, muscles are a primary user of insulin. So excess insulin has to get used up. It goes two places. It goes to your liver and it goes to your muscle, and it turns muscle into fat. So if you're using, right, you're using your muscles, you're using more insulin as well, and that's why exercise is so important to insulin resistance. All right, we got 88 new messages. And again, there's going to be people that have problems, right? So again, if you're like, how many people have just had terrible outcomes from lap bands, right? Because they didn't realize that they were going to crush their gut as a result of that lap band. Yes, they can't fit as much food in there. And yes, it basically works as a GLP agonist. But you just completely change your physiology, just like it is taking out your gallbladder. Heather, you can get that muscle mass back. But here's one of the things, okay? So this is how I'm going to tie this in. One of the other things that drives insulin resistance, right, is we already mentioned it once. Cortisol, okay? So if you look at the cell, okay, the insulin receptor, it is sensitized, right? So there's like a little bed right here, making it nice for the insulin to dock, right? So insulin wants to dock, okay? But that nice little layer is set by cortisol. So why is it that people that have adverse childhood experiences, those people that have poor vagal tone, those people that have high stress lifestyles end up with insulin resistance? Many times they're not even overweight. In fact, if you're insulin resistant and you're not overweight, you have a higher chance of developing cardiovascular disease, heart attacks, and strokes. So again, what we have to understand is that, yes, insulin, right, can drop that blood sugar down. It can provoke anxiety, can cause insomnia at nighttime, it can cause hot flashes, etc. Again, insulin is going to drive fat cells, but now, what was that second hormone we started with at the beginning of this lecture? Okay? Second hormone that I listed was estrogen. Fat cells make estrogen. Uh-oh. Ruh-roh. And you 100%, you guys can, first of all, let me understand this. You can reverse insulin resistance, but it's going to, remember, if it took you 10 years to get there, it's not going to be next week that you're going to fix this. It may be next year, and maybe a couple years of working diligently to reverse this. But fat cells promote estrogen. So what does estrogen do? Nothing. Right? Oh, well, guys, again, keep in mind, outside of a couple rheumatologic conditions, every single autoimmune condition, except for a couple, and there's like over 85, right, has a higher incidence of female. That's who's getting autoimmunity, is women. When you have estrogen dominance, right, because as you start producing more estrogen, you're going to start creating estrogen dominance. So you'll get breast tenderness, right, swelling, heavy menstrual cycles, clotting. You're going to feel like crap. You may not treat people super nice. You may not realize that you're treating people not so nice. But there'll be other people in your life that will kind of say like, hey, it's like this one time of the month, it's like kind of like a different person. But what's happening is, again, your brain is responding to estrogen. Your neurotransmitters are changed through estrogen. So what are they going to tell you? Oh, yeah, well, you have estrogen dominance, right? So let's give you more estrogen in the form of birth control or an IUD. Does this sound familiar to anyone? Emma, I know I'm describing you. I have to call you guys out because I have to get you guys to realize that what you're doing is not working. Doing the same thing over and over again every single day and expecting that that's going to work for you guys tomorrow is the definition of insanity. So they're literally giving women more estrogen to try to fix an estrogen problem. For those women that are dealing with MTHFR problems, when they're given estrogen, guess what? They don't like it. They don't feel good. Have you guys ever not noticed this? Like, I got an IUD. Ooh, I didn't like that. Man, I started taking birth control. Ooh, I didn't do well with that. But many people ignore it. Many people are told to ignore those symptoms as well. And so again, then that's where we start getting into the world of thyroid disease, the number one genetic alteration that leads and predisposes towards hypothyroidism, of which most of that is Hashimoto's, is contraception. And if you guys are now, look, if you guys have gone to a hormone doctor, give me a break, okay? This is my beef. If you're calling yourself a Lyme doctor, a mold doctor, a hormone doctor, I call BS. I call you're doing that because it's a great way for you to convince people that you're a specialist and that they need to come see you and pay you money. You need to know your shit when it comes to physiology. That's the bottom line. And if you don't know your stuff and you don't know how to test for it, shame on you because you're using sales and gimmicks to get patients, rather than looking at labs and understanding timeline and figuring out commitment and what a client can and can't do in their life. Because that's what's going to start to move the needle. Doing things different today to get a different outcome tomorrow. Okay? And then again, what are they told? Oh, well, we're giving you hormone replacement therapy. Make sure you're taking anastrozole, Arimidex, right? Because remember, oh my God, I'm going to have to clear this off a little bit. Okay, so we're not done with this talk right here. I need to finish this talk right here because this is what relates a huge, huge part to autoimmunity. But I have a quick rag that I need to go a little bit of a side quest here and talk about bioidentical hormones, all right? And again, I'm going to tell you guys straight up, some people benefit from bioidentical hormones. The number one population of patients who benefit from bioidentical hormones, notice that I'm not saying Premarin, bioidenticals, all right? Don't even dare taking conjugated equine estrogens. It's a hot mess nightmare, all right? Horse piss. Just imagine that every time you're taking that pill. Because that's what Premarin is, all right? But the number one thing that people, again, have to understand is that when they're going into their menopause stage, they're dealing with symptoms that were typically because of systems that were leading, this has been going on for decades usually for women. Now they're at a peak crisis and they're told take more hormones to fix the issue. Well, that doesn't always fix the problem. And again, and for fact, for some people, it makes them worse. And here's why, all right? So if you look at your hormones, again, testosterone, okay, which comes from DHEA, which comes from cholesterol, okay, that breaks down into estrogen, and there's an enzyme called aromatase, okay? So testosterone converts into estrogen via an enzyme called aromatase. What increases aromatase is insulin. Ha! So women, you have no libido, your motivation sucks, and your drive sucks, and you're kind of like, I want to live on the couch now. And I used to think my husband was sexy. I could really care less. Ladies, listen up. Insulin is good. Krista, you have to have insulin or you die. Okay, we have to have insulin. You have to get blood sugar inside your cell. Okay? And your husband's like, what's wrong with me? And the answer is nothing. There's nothing usually wrong with your husband. But I can guarantee you that's causing some friction in your relationships, ladies. Because I talk to ladies all day. Past 15 years, right? And you're like, I want to be intimate with my husband, but I have a dry, I don't have vaginal secretion, so it hurts. And I don't have libido, so why the hell would I want to have sex? Connie's like, fix me! Connie, we do one-on-one work. We'd be thrilled and pleased to help you. Oh goodness, if your man has no libido, again, pay attention. Remember, this is both for women and for men. So again, look, if testosterone is upregulated or downstream, it's turned into estrogen for everyone. The enzyme that does that is aromatase. Aromatase is upregulated because of insulin. So again, if you're fatiguing after meals, if you're craving sugar after meals, if your blood sugar is going up and down, that's primary insulin resistance. You're not utilizing that hormone correct, and you're going to have to reverse that. Again, for me, absolutely, continuous glucose monitor. Again, it's in our bio, it's in our link tree. The only difference of you getting this versus if I'm giving this to you in a care plan is we actually teach you on these. Okay? It's very self-sufficient, however. Most people can really actually figure out a lot of their weaknesses and issues because the food that you're eating is garbage, first of all. Now, if you're chronically inflamed, that also will promote insulin resistance. Okay, so there's different mechanisms for insulin resistance, including environmental. So again, the point is if you're going to a hormone clinic, they're going to give you hormones. It's not just about taking anastrozole or Arimidex or taking Chrysin if you're natural to downregulate the aromatase. It's going upstream and getting yourself to be insulin sensitive. So again, here's what's going to happen as far as that libido problem, right? Is that if you're insulin resistant, that testosterone rapidly gets converted. So the two big mechanisms, right, that I see squash testosterone is because there's insulin resistance, or secondly, if you have high levels, right? So if we have high levels of inflammation, right, that could be C-reactive protein, ESR, NF-kappa B, right? So if you're chronically inflamed, think about it. Would your body want to reproduce? Would you evolutionarily want to reproduce? No. You're going to squash your testosterone because it's not in the benefit of a future fetus. So you're going to have to do two big things if you're dealing with libido problems. Okay, so wait. There's three. Excuse me, I'm a guy. Okay, so it kind of just like turns on and turns off. And that's just because I'm a dude, all right? Women need intimacy. I'm not going to turn this into an intimacy lecture. However, I am old enough to understand if there's not connection, there is not intimacy, right? So, guys, learn from your mistakes, okay? This is why romance is important. But outside of that, if we don't take care of inflammatory triggers, which, where would that come from? Again, usually the gastrointestinal tract. If you're chronically inflamed, if you have leaky gut, if you have bacterial overgrowth, if you have fungal overgrowth, again, when you're chronically inflamed, you will suppress your hormones. Does that make sense? And again, it's not, right? It's not about just giving you additional hormones and assuming that's going to fix everything. Veronica, if you have a low calorie, right, and you're chronically dieting, your hormones are actually being yo-yoed up and down. That is another source of stress and inflammation on your body. Manka, so again, what's going to happen here, right, is that estrogen, testosterone, and progesterone, which are coming from ovaries and your endometrial tissue, okay? So your organ system, which means it's producing those hormones, that is actually essentially massaging your immune system. So like I was saying, we're not done with this talk down here about estrogen. Estrogen has anti-inflammatory benefits and pro-inflammatory benefits. Insulin resistance just hits all the pro-inflammatory issues. So one of the things that happens and why women struggle so much after hysterectomies, right, is they go from here to nothing instantly. And your immune system has to receive hormones as part of the signals that keeps everything happy and safe. Your immune system cells partly have receptors to hormones. If you don't have hormones, your immune system is going to be upset because it's not going to function normally. So guess what? There is a higher chance you're going to get chronic infections if you have chronic deficiency of hormones as well. So this is why I say to my clients and I say to everyone I'm doing these lectures is that it is the Goldilocks phenomenon. We don't want too much. We don't want too little. We want right where your body needs it. If your doctors don't know how to read labs, if they're only using blood labs for hormones, if they're never looking at things like insulin or cortisol, right, or vitamin D, they're missing the bigger, broader picture. If they're not checking inflammatory markers such as C-reactive protein, high sensitivity, those excess in inflammation will squash your hormones. So again, most of the time, folks, just so you understand, it's not about recommending hormones. Yes, we give vitamin D all the time. That's a hormone, okay? If you truly have vitamin D deficiencies, it would be a good idea for you guys to take vitamin D. But most of the time, we are trying to fix insulin resistance. We're trying to help people deal with their cortisol rhythm during the day. Again, cortisol suppresses your immune system, right? We are trying to get people insulin resistant so they don't have estrogen surges and estrogen dominance, okay? We're trying to stabilize blood sugar so people don't wake up with anxiety and feel like crap the next day. Or we're trying to fix gut function through stool testing or gluten sensitivity testing, or we're trying to figure out what are the triggers in your gut, in your diet, in your lifestyle. Because when you pull back on those triggers, your body knows what to do. Your body heals itself almost every single time. And I've seen some pretty messed up clients in my career. And I've seen some what I would call miracles, things that you cannot explain through modern science. Which is another why, and that's another reason why you'll see I'm a believer. Christ is my Lord and Savior. There's only one true God. And He is the manifester of miracles. But God works through people as well. Keep that in mind. Right? So, people that are ready to move. Yeah, so if you're going to drink alcohol, alcohol is going to feed negative bacteria. Alcohol also will cause permeability in the gut. So all of our clients, we are going to pull them off of alcohol. okay? Victoria is asking, can autoimmune diseases make you get liver damage? Yeah, so autoimmune diseases can affect your liver, but remember, when you have leaky gut, where does it go? Like, once you get leaky gut, when you get permeability in your gut, right? Where does all that go? That goes to your systemic circulation, but it also goes into your liver. So people may have non-alcoholic steatohepatitis, right? So NASH disease. And they're told, well, they're like, hey, stop drinking. Well, I don't drink. How, what do you mean? How do I have fatty liver if I don't drink? Because one, you're insulin resistant, and you're just insulin resistant from other mechanisms besides alcohol. Or two, your gut is trashed. And your gut is dumping through the hepatic portal system primarily into your liver. If your gut's not healthy, your liver's not healthy. And people all the time are like, no, fix the liver first. I'm like, what are you talking about? Anatomically, if we're talking north to south, well, the liver comes after the gut. Okay? London Avenue Designs, would PCOS relate to lupus? Yes, because PCOS, the primary trigger behind PCOS is cortisol dysregulation and insulin resistance. Okay? My olive branch home. Woohoo! I love you, man. Thanks for coming on to the live. Appreciate that. Anna is saying, hey, why do I suddenly have a psoriasis? Guys, whether you have lupus or you have Hashimoto's or you have rheumatoid arthritis, you're not going to suddenly have it. You're going to hit a tipping point where you're going to start to notice those symptoms. On average, it takes 7 to 9 years, right? 7 to 9 years to develop autoimmunity. That means the average time of diagnosis after you have symptoms is 7 to 9 years. So how long does it take to develop autoimmunity? It's usually a decade. It's a decades-long process. You're gradually reducing your tolerance to yourself because most of the time it's self-inflicted wounds. It's consuming gluten, having high-stress lifestyles. It's not prioritizing sleep. It's not prioritizing exercise. It's not eating nutrient-dense foods, right? It's not aware that you have genetic alterations in methylation. We didn't talk about that because it's not a hormonal mechanism, but it does impact your hormones. You can't detox your hormones as well if you have MTHFR defects, another hormonal mechanism that will lead to autoimmunity because, again, the main sufferer of autoimmunity is a woman. And it's not just because she's got bad genes. Oh, just women. Well, your mom had autoimmunity. Oh, your grandma had autoimmunity, right? No, that's gaslighting. There are explicit reasons why. One of the other big reasons, and we don't even have time to talk about it, right, are these things called persistent organic pollutants. So things like plastics, like BPA, that stimulates and triggers estrogen production. Ugh, that's not good. And this is why your liver needs to be in line. This is why you need to support your liver. Because when you do that, you're going to actually have a better chance of detoxifying. When you don't detoxify, it's also basically telling us you have low levels of glutathione. Glutathione is the shield that wraps all of your tissue in a warmth and loving embrace. And if you don't have enough glutathione, that's like walking outside and not having any clothes on. How long are you going to last? Because the environment is going to hit that tissue and it's going to start to cause inflammation. And that glutathione is necessary to actually soak that up. But glutathione is also critical for your detoxification process. Okay? Where do you start in the help and aid of detoxification of the liver? You guys, again, it's your gut health, right? If you want to help your liver, you got to help your gut health. If you want to understand that better, and especially if you want to help heal leaky gut, because that's one of these huge vicious cycles. I have a guide in my bio, in my link tree. I'm not going to do a leaky gut lecture. I do lectures on leaky gut. Whole lectures, like whole hour I'll spend on just leaky gut. It's a complex topic, but we have a whole handout, 3 pages long. If you go to my bio, go to my link tree, you guys can download it, just punch in your email, and then we'll actually send it to you automatically, okay? So we have that. Ooh, elevated prolactin level. I was gonna talk about prolactin, but that is actually relevant. Okay, we're gonna talk about prolactin because it's actually one of my I love understanding, helping people understand prolactin. Because prolactin is related to dopamine, prolactin is related to your thyroid. So if there's any people that are dealing with thyroid problems, if you've taken thyroid hormones and you're still dealing with thyroid symptoms, you need to test your prolactin levels. Heir of the Kingdom. I love that name. Thank you. God bless you, man. So back to here. Can I give you guys one more? Come here. Come here. Can I give you guys one more tip on helping correct insulin resistance? Look at this. Hi. You're on the camera. She's like, what did I do? Oh. Okay, so this is Betty. Oh. Betty's my whippet. She's very needy. She's been running around my feet like, pay attention to me, Dad. So if I can give you guys one tip on reversing insulin resistance, it is to have a protein and fat dominant breakfast. So the first thing that you want to do, besides like my normal AM routine, okay, is when we break our fast, we want protein and fat dominant. That could be eggs. Unfortunately, boom chakalaka, love that name, okay? Some people are gonna be reactive to eggs. Eggs are top 5 as far as reactive foods. So again, we gotta be careful about that. If you guys have really gone through gut healing protocols and you've removed eggs out of your diet and you've brought them back in and you don't react to them, eggs are one of the best proteins you can do because it's protein and fat. But again, throwing in avocado, steak, yep, meat, protein, again, it could be turkey bacon, it could be regular bacon. There's a brand called Tasty, and they don't use nitrates, and so they don't use preservatives, they don't use sugar. So I eat bacon all the time, guys, right? And you should see my lipid panel. It's phenomenal. I have a perfect lipid panel, and I've been eating bacon for decades. But I don't eat sodium nitrite, I don't put nitriles in my body, and I don't have superheated sugars in my bacon. Okay? Grace, do you need to be gluten-free and dairy-free for Hashimoto's? Yes. Katrina, vegans? It's a tough road. I'm not gonna lie. It's tough. For the most part, we don't take clients that are vegan one-on-one because they struggle so much. There's so little nutrient density in vegan-based foods. Now, could you add in amino acids? Yes, but the thing is, plant-based amino acids are incomplete when you look versus animal-based amino acids. Planet Vespa, do we do paid one-on-one consultations? Yes, for the past 15 years. This is, that's how I pay my bills. Shockingly, it's not TikTok. Like if I was doing crazy stuff, as you guys have seen on lives, maybe I could pay the bill with my lives. I do my lives to meet people like you guys. I help inspire people, first of all. We help educate. And then some people feel that, you know what, they have a connection. This seems like a legitimate guy. He's talking to me like a human being. He seems reasonable. I've seen his other videos. He seems kind of intelligent. So I want to go see if we can work with them. So the one-on-one consults come through something called discovery calls. That's in our link tree. That's in our bio. So you schedule a discovery call. Just understand if you're really ready to go, then you need to pay the $350. There's one link that says $350. That's our blood work, and that's my consult fee, okay? That's for a 15-year seasoned functional medicine doctor. Good luck trying to match that with other people. And again, quite frankly, in my opinion, most people that do functional medicine say they do functional medicine, and they do nothing close to functional medicine. Again, it's just a buzzword right now, right? So You should have letters after your name that says that, yes, you have a degree in functional medicine. And you should be practicing it for a while. But anyways, so we do the one-on-one consultations. We just say to people, hey, look, you got to be willing to change your diet. You got to be willing to take supplementation, and you got to be motivated. Other than that, like if you hit those 3 criteria, we can definitely help you, okay? So that's through our bio, our link tree. You can grab that information and you can go from there. We were going to talk about prolactin. So let's go through prolactin. Okay. Okay. So first of all, we want prolactin in a menstruating female less than a 17. That's optimal. Jana, I believe it's called Tasty, is the brand. It's like an orange and black label. Okay. So prolactin, again, optimally, usually it's about a 24 is the cutoff, but again, less than 17 is actually what I typically see. Now, interesting enough, prolactin, again, influences a lot of systems. It influences progesterone, it influences the thyroid, and it influences dopamine heavily. Yeah, so it's less than a 17, okay? All right, so if we see over 100, that is a referral. I've seen one of those in my career because prolactin is a pituitary hormone, okay? If you guys haven't had your prolactin tested, but you're still suffering with hypothyroid issues, thyroid problems, okay? Or the other big, right, the other big ticket items would be symptoms like depression. So isolation, okay? Focus, Squirrel, right? Focus, okay? So wanting to self-isolate, lack of focus, okay? Snappy, a little irritable, snappy, okay? And self-deprecation. Those are probably those are 4 most common symptoms, right? Now, yes, you could have a separate issue in reasons for depression, such as chronic inflammation or insulin resistance, and your prolactin is fine. But I'm also just telling you, a lot of you guys have not tested your prolactin level. That's a bummer. It should be tested. Okay? No, I'm not in Ontario. I'm in Colorado. But we do work with people in Canada, but just understand that none of what I do is covered by insurance. So when you have socialized medicine and you're used to socialized medicine and not paying for it, most people won't do that. But the problem is if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you're going to still get the same outcome. So unfortunately, yeah, sometimes in healthcare, you have to invest in your healthcare. So here's the deal. If we got these symptoms of depression, if we do have, again, an elevated prolactin level, that prolactin actually will start to increase your TSH. So not dramatically high levels of TSH, but it can actually start to push TSH up and start to actually antagonize hypothyroidism. But very, very commonly, what really is also going to happen is you start to hammer dopamine. Dopamine. Joy. You just don't care anymore. But it's a hormonal mechanism. And again, typically, guess what? It's because of chronic inflammation. You, again, have a lot of these root cause mechanisms that we're talking about. You have bacterial overgrowth in your gut. You don't have enough beneficial bacteria in your gut, so you can't, again, squash inflammation. You don't have enough nutrients in your body. You can't squash inflammation, right? You have fluctuating levels of hormones. You have exposures to chemicals in your environment. There's all these very common mechanisms, right? Inappropriate regulation of cortisol. That's going to drive inflammation because you suppress your immune system with your cortisol being dysregulated. But then what's going to happen, right? You start to squash your dopamine. So if you want to address that, it's called chase tree. Ta-da! Like I said, it's also progesterone related. So chase tree is actually also used in progesterone-related issues. But chase tree works great. It's also called Ascus cagnus vitex. Okay? And so that's a great resource for elevated prolactin levels. And it's another mechanism that's a hormonal mechanism that can actually drive depression. So even correcting TSH is not necessarily going to correct prolactin. Just because you guys are taking mucuna which is a dopamine agonist, it's not going to fix the mechanism. And sometimes you're not going to actually see, again, self-isolation and focus and concentration, and then you're irritable and you're, and you're like your own worst enemy. Some of that stuff will not go away until you go upstream and you fix the mechanism that's driving the prolactin up. Okay. So again, Saradocia, 2 things to fix the prolactin, again, is chase tree berry, right? I don't give dosages on lives because then you guys would think I'm treating you. That's not. Someone's probably trying to get me in trouble with my board. So I just don't give dosages in my lives, okay? So you guys are going to have to figure that out on your own, all right? But, I mean, seriously, it's just like, yeah. But again, if we don't find the source of the inflammation, the chase tree is not going to work. So you gotta do both of those things right there. London Avenue Designs, you have reactions to supplements. That could be just you're taking folic acid instead of, again, L5-MTHF. So if you're taking folic acid and you actually have MTHFR defects, that could be a reason you're reacting to supplements. Remember, there's also a lot of fillers and crap in supplements that are cheaper, so you may be reacting to those. There's a lot of reasons why people react to supplements. But again, a lot of times what I find is people don't clean house first. So if you're not working on the mechanism that's actually helping you absorb the supplements, i.e. a lot of people that react to supplements, they have gut problems. So fix those gut problems, okay? And you're gonna find actually that your sensitivity levels go way down when you take supplements. And London Avenue Designs, if you live in London, we do work with people in London too. Okay, you just need to reach out. The discovery call won't work because of international phone thing, unless you can somehow call us with a US number. But you can email info@drautoimmune.com. So guys, I'll answer a couple more questions. But again, if you guys want this lecture, go to info@drautoimmune.com. And we can get you the full length lecture. We'll put it up on our YouTube. But I'm telling you guys that right now we have a $350 consult for those people that want to have a deeper elevation. Yes, we do test the majority of the hormones that we talked about tonight. We check insulin, we check your progesterone, we check testosterone, estradiol. Blood testing may not tell you all the information that you need, however. So I also use a test called the dried urine test for comprehensive hormones, or the Dutch test. So depending on what you need, so this is, I've done my initial consults lots of different ways. I've gotten tons of labs and tried to explain that to people, and usually it's like, whew, it's too much. Most of you guys have brain fog. It's real, and I've experienced it before. So the first time I sit down with someone, it's really feeling people out. It's really kind of nailing down the most likely scenario of what's causing what and educating you about those markers that we got in your blood work. Then we have a good foundation of where we need to start to move next with you. So that's the 350 consult of, again, blood work. Then it's going to be, again, me going through that with you and your spouse, because they need to understand. They need to know why you don't have libido. They need to be told, you know what, there's a good chance this is going to get better. They need to have hope just like you need to have hope. Because maybe you're not able to show up as the best spouse that you have wanted to, right? Maybe you are dealing with some depressions right now. But it's not about, oh, this is just my destiny. No, it's about us identifying those root causes and then laying the groundwork in how to fix it. That's the difference, is that if I can help someone, I will tell them, and I will tell you very explicitly how. Not just, oh, take some supplements and here you go, here's your diet. That doesn't work. People need accountability. They need education. They need inspiration. And part of that accountability is you have to come back and repeat labs. And I need to show you that you're better, because that is a lifestyle change. The biggest issue, right, and what happens with Western medicine versus functional medicine is I'm focused on lifestyle as a primary outcome. Your doctor is worried about your lab markers as a primary outcome. And they're trying to alter your biochemistry through blood pressure medications or cholesterol medications or metformin, which is going to, again, increase, right, and make your pancreas work harder. So they're increasing and they're decreasing your biochemical pathways, but they're not looking at the actual reasons of why that biochemical pathway is stressed. Systems cause symptoms. So, Monka, again, if you're dealing with levothyroxine, if you're taking levothyroxine and if you're dealing with more symptoms, again, very good chance that there's an autoimmune mechanism and we can help you figure that out. Alyssa, yes, I've been working with toddlers. Tiffany, we've been working with kids since I've been in practice. So I have seen, we used to have a very strong primary focus in ADHD and autism. And then just in general, I usually fix the adults first. And then people are like, fix our kids too. And I'm like, great, bring them in, man. I love working with kids. And I've never even seen them. Like, if you guys go to my Google Maps, I have Google reviews. We got over 100 Google reviews. And one of my most recent Google reviews was about a woman, and she brought her kid. And again, remember, guys, I'm telemedicine. This woman was in California, right? But she brought her kid in. He was constantly fighting with his brother, really reactive, starting to regress in school. All the symptoms of attention deficit, and she didn't want to just give him methylphenidate. She didn't want to give him Vivance. Oh, time-released Ritalin. She's like, there's something wrong. And in her review, she explained that, what we found and what we did for him. And that changed their life. That changed the family's life. So, yeah, I'm blessed to be able to work with kids too. Reno Cosmina, my thoughts on Plaquenil is that, again, although hydroxychloroquine is probably not as aggressive as prednisone or Humira, right, or methotrexate. So if I had to choose, I'm going to recommend or prefer Plaquenil because the side effect profile is lower. Again, however, you're completely ignoring the reason of why you're being put on the Plaquenil, meaning you're suppressing your immune system. Yeah, Sarah, we work with endometriosis all the time. Gut dysbiosis, primarily insulin resistance, sometimes environmental toxicity, very common mechanisms for endometriosis. I am red E. How do you check inflammation? Well, sometimes, again, it's your symptoms. If you do have redness and swelling and pain and joint stiffness and brain fog and fatigue, those are signs of inflammation, right? If you've got swelling in your lower legs, right, at the end of the day, that's inflammation. It's what's causing it. We'll test C-reactive protein. We'll check your ferritin. We'll check insulin. All those markers are associated with inflammation. But TAM red E, what's most important is figuring out why do you have signs of inflammation. Okay, look at this. Hey, come here. Don't sniff the trash. Come over here. Come hang out. Look at these. Look, if I start paying attention to him, oh, Dwight, you're such a good boy. Such a good boy, Dwight. I could barely do lives with these knuckleheads. I love these dogs though. Loophole, we work in the UK. Jennifer Salinas, if we take your case on, we repeat labs at 2-month intervals. You need a couple months of working on our recommendations, okay? Shauna, probably the most common cause of chronic constipation is going to be methane-based SIBO. Bianca, we definitely work with people with chronic mono. Again, there's other reasons why you have chronic mono. It's not just that, you know, you're doomed because you just got a bad hand as far as the cards that were dealt to you. There's reasons why you have chronic mono. So we can probably talk to you about that. And that's very, very common as far as what we see in practice. All right, London Avenue Design, set up that call. Awesome, so excited. You know what's crazy is that, again, the more surgeries people have, the lower their levels of glutathione. Yup, tissue damage, tissue injury, and isoflurane actually, they all squash your glutathione levels. So a lot of times people go into surgeries and actually they have poor outcomes from surgeries. They need more surgeries, right? And again, their inflammation level is going higher and higher, and their doctors aren't recognizing that because their doctors are being paid for the surgeries. So again, that's just a bummer outcome. But we can help. Okay, so guys, again, remember we have our leaky gut handout. So I would encourage you guys to grab that. You just, in the bio, in the link tree, you can punch that in. Okay, yes, we do work with people who have HS. Okay. And again, I'm here to help you guys. If you guys need a question answered, if for some reason I didn't get your question, please send me a DM. I'm happy to get back to you. And ultimately, if you guys want me to look at your labs, again, I'm going to say book a consultation because I'm not going to just look at your labs and give you free medical advice. It's just, that's not a good idea. We want to look at all of what's going on before I would say, hey, here's what I would do, right? And again, just, I'm polite about that, but just understand when you DM me, I'm not going to sit there and spend 30 minutes with you because my time is valuable and I only have so much time I can give to my clients and what I can give for these lives as well. But again, I appreciate everyone as far as them being here, right? And just taking some time. Again, if you guys need a replay, you guys want to hear more of what I just spoke about, again, email info@drautoimmune.com and we will get this lecture loaded up to YouTube. And then we'll make sure you guys can actually get a copy of it so you guys can actually watch this at your own convenience. Other than that, again, tomorrow I'll be back at 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We have our schedule posted on for our lives up in my bio. And if there's anything else I can do to help you guys, please just reach out. And again, until then, again, God bless you guys, man. Like, remember, we are the head, we are not the tail. We are more than conquerors. And we are here to love everyone. Even the people that annoy you the most. The most important thing we can do is turn that cheek and present the other side, right? It's hard. It's probably one of the hardest parts, but it's so important. And it's so important that we show people what that means because when they see it, maybe they're going to live it and they might get inspired because of your actions as well. So again, this is Dr. Ian here, Dr. Autoimmune. Again, until next time, let your health soar.